Hello. Hi, it's Alexis. Thanks for being here. So we're in our fourth day. I'm doing this sort of live talk through really of a bunch of different key concepts. And I'm shadowed again. Hold on, let me see if I can make it lower. Here we go. No shadows on my face. Anyway, so we're doing this 5-day thing. We started with, I'm looking down at my notes, it was awesome. What was it? Oh, it was your business message. How to get clear on your business message, your audience, and what you actually do. So we started at life purpose, drilled it all the way down to your business message and audience. The second day, we talked about the strategic pieces to consider when you're looking at a social media strategy and how you want to show up in social media. So from a strategist point of view, what are the key questions that you need to ask? We had 3 questions about yourself and 3 questions about your audience. It was awesome. Yesterday, we talked about how to sort through business advice so you can stay sane, focus, and get things done. That's huge, right? Like, how do we actually get things done? And there's one key missing step and question that we went over that's like, it's not going to work if you don't do that. And then today we're going to talk about why branding is so difficult. So this is one of my favorite topics. I actually have never talked about it publicly outside of my Facebook group because it's something that I'm working on. Oh, hey, Kristen, how are you? We're talking about branding, but we're going to talk about it in like a totally deep way. So branding, just to define it, I suppose, I'm going to define it crudely and horribly, I'm sure. But the way that I look at branding is like, what are you standing for out in a public space? And that can express itself in colors and images and font choices and the people that you partner with, the product and images and font choices and the people that you partner with, the products that you end up co-creating, the things that end up representing you. When people think of you, they're thinking of the brand that you've created for yourself. So we know when we think of movie stars, we all have different ideas. Oh, that one's elegant. Oh, that one's more playful. Or that one's kind of slutty. Like, we have these images that we've attached to certain people, and that's part of their brand, whether they intended it or not. So we're thinking about something like that. Now, if you run your own business personally, then you have a personal brand. And that means that there's you as who you are at home, sitting in your house, being you, and there's you with your family, and there's you with your friends, and there's you, and then there's your business, which is represented by you, but actually isn't you. It's its own entity. But when you're the sole face of your business or the primary face of your business as you grow, then we want to think about, what does your business stand for? How does your business represent itself that's distinct from maybe how you represent yourself? But this can be a really tricky thing when you are really, really deep on a human level, on a human development level or evolutionary level. Let's put it that way. And my very first love in life is anthropology. It's what I went to school for. And actually I went from anthropology studying people to, okay, now can I study people and help them? So I moved from just focusing on cultures and interactions and then moving into ethnic conflict and peacekeeping work. And one of the topics that comes up over and over and over again is self-definition. How do we define ourselves? How do we become us versus them? Tribal warfare, ethnic conflict, war between countries. How do we even get to a place where we're saying, this is me, this is what I stand for, and that's separate from you, which at the end of the day is ultimately what branding is, right? Especially when we all hear those things, stand out in the market, be unique. You're not gonna get anybody if you're not fully you. Like, the more you are, the more people will love you. And all of that pressure's coming in to be us, but then there's this more basic human desire to belong and be safe and be protected by the community. So we have these competing demands. So I just want to walk through it. So one of the things that happens I'll just give you an example to create an internal war in a country is that we have these factors of people starting to identify not as a nation as a whole, but as separate and distinct entities. So you could imagine if the U.S. was going to go into, an internal war, I might say like, well, I'm from Ohio, and I'm going to fight with Ohio. Ohioans are better than anybody else. And I could take that to an extreme where it all of a sudden becomes Ohio against the rest of the country. Actually, Texas is really great at this. Not in the aggressive way, but they're really great at being like, we're from Texas. So we can see how immediately we've identified as self, this is our group, this is who we are, this is what we stand for, this is what matters to us, and we attach things to that, attach emotions to that. And then by inherently, we've created an other. when we do that process. So we're saying, this is me, this is who I am, and that makes you somebody different than me. But when we, and actually we do this all the time. Most of us do this all the time. If I go to the town 45 minutes away, well, then I'm from this town 45 minutes over here. But if I'm meeting somebody in Michigan and they say, where you're from? Well, I'm from Ohio. I live in New York, but I'm from Ohio. But as soon as I go to meet somebody from Canada, well, I'm from New York. Because it's right, it's a neighbor and I have to identify I'm from New York. Or if you meet an Australian, well, I'm an American. So we change our identities all the time. It's a really natural thing to do. And I think one of the hardest parts with branding for your business is that this fluid nature of your identity, the ability to morph and mold yourself to the environment that you're in order to both identify yourself and be safe and be recognized in that environment, is at direct odds with what branding asks you to do, which is pick a certain way that you're going to be and hold that for a long time. Just hold it. Don't change. No changing, because you have to be consistent, right? And those two things don't go together on a really deep, deep level. And so if you've been struggling with your branding, cut yourself some slack, because this is not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing to do to say this wonderful, amazing adaptation that I have as a human being to always be safe in my community by changing who I am just slightly in order to identify with people and build that closeness and connection that keeps me safe and secure, that I'm just going to turn my back on that all of a sudden and go, oh no, this is who I am. You guys can shove it. On the other hand, we also know that people who've done that can be really successful, right? They can either be crazy mass murderers or they can be really successful. There's lots of people that we've got stories in our media, especially if you're American, we've got them in Hollywood, who we really look up to because they're like, no, this is my creative process and I do it my way. So we might have the desire to be safe and secure and connect with people, but we also have the desire for self-expression. So two desires conflicting at the same time as they're conflicting with these basic human needs to be protected and safe. So that's the lay of the land, right? We always morph and change. That's how we are naturally. But we also have this desire to be really individual and unique and creatively expressive. Two different things going on. And what branding is asking you to do, basically, is get in a boat where you can't see the other side of the land. You don't know where it is. You don't know how far it is. And you're getting in the boat alone. And you're just pushing off. You're like, hey, screw you guys. I'm getting in the boat and I'm going to do my thing. And then when you get to the other side, if there's land, you get to the other side of the land and you have to be consistent and you have to be clear in order for that new group of people to really understand who you are. So that's where the consistency becomes really key. So even though the tendency is to say, okay, I'm going to go into this group and maybe my spiritual side will come out. And I'm going to go into this more business-focused group and my business side is going to come out. And then I'm going to go into this group. I'm in a group with a couple of women who are really, really like hard ass. I'm going into those groups and I'm a totally different person than I would be in the soft spiritual side that I am in the other group. But when we're starting to meet a new group of people, or we want to create our own tribe, which is what creating and leading a business is about, you create a group of people around you as that central aspect. You need to be consistent. You need to have that one voice that runs through everything. And it's literally like, if you think about all the different threads that are coming into you, your family thread, your friends from childhood, where you grew up, your country, you have all of these ties that are tying you to every possible community group you've ever been in. And all of a sudden, you're going to cut all those ties. You're going to look at them laying there and you're saying, well, how do I weave this together into one coherent string? One coherent string that stands for everything that I want to be in the world. So it's a really, really challenging job. And branding then serves as a form of communication. So it's the way that you speak without speaking, so without words, it's the way you talk to the people that you want to be around. So the colors that you use, some are going to resonate with men, some are going to resonate with women, some people aren't even going to notice your colors. The fonts that you use, the same thing. The way that you speak, some people aren't going to like you, some people are. The topics that you talk about even, or the way that you choose to dress, or how serious you are, or how silly you are, all of those things are going to speak to people and give them messages and communicate to them about what you value and what you want to see in them as well. And if they like that and they resonate with that, they see a part of themselves in you, they're going to come to you and they're going to be part of your tribe. And if they don't, then great. They're not part of your tribe. And that's a really scary process on a deep level. So this is another reason why branding is so hard, is that yes, we're trying to attract a tribe, but by standing out and taking a stand, we're actually actively pushing people away as well. And that goes against human nature, right? It goes against our desire to feel safe and secure and know that we are going to be protected and we're not going to be out there alone walking through the wilderness completely unprotected. So we have the first challenge of branding, which is to actually break all of those ties and say, I want to be different than my normal habitat or childhood habitat or my friends and the people around me. Like, no, I'm going to stand out and take a stand and be different here. So that's the first challenge, because we don't want to rock the boat. We don't want to upset people. We don't want to give the finger to what we've had before. But that's not what it's about, right? We feel this bigger calling, this inner desire to be more unique, to be who you really are and speak in your own voice. And then when we've made that step, super scary step number one, first we make that step, then we get there and we're like, oh wait, okay, now I have to actually speak for myself. What does that look like? And we have to come up with a voice. We have to come up with who am I? We have to come up with what really matters to me and how do I want to show myself, because I do have to be consistent. So that's the second step, is or the challenge. Scary step number two, how do I actually want to show myself? And then scary step number three, you start to do it and it pushes people away. It pushes some people away, not everybody. And that's the key. You're only drawing in the right people, because you're drawing in the people that now agree with, speak with, resonate with the things that you stand for and the things that you've deliberately chosen to represent in the world. But you're pushing people away at the same time, so that can be really scary. And yes, so basically, I think the hardest thing about branding, sorry, I keep looking down at my notes, is that it's asking us to transcend a normal human inclination to be safe, to be protected, and to really not be noticed. Because being picked out isn't always a good thing, right? And we're going back millennia. We carry these lessons through our genes. We carry these lessons like a cellular memory of how to interact and how to behave. But we can transcend, right? We're at a new place in time. So many of us are starting individual businesses. We can look back at people like Leonardo da Vinci or people who were magnificent over time, and we know that it's possible to stand out. In fact, we know that that's a lot of what we strive for, is to really fully express who we are. And we have stories of people who were persecuted and rejected for that, but we also have stories of people who were championed and honored for being different and really taking that risk. So if you feel that calling to take the risk, there are a couple things, 3 steps in particular, that I think are really, really helpful to get the confidence to start to see your own brand more clearly. Because I don't think that the first step is to jump straight into what colors and font express who I am. I think that's way too much pressure. That's like from at least a planning perspective, that's so far down the chain of what matters. It's more of it's an effect. Having the right visual representation of your brand is a consequence of being clear on the core elements of your brand. And if the core elements of your brand are off, which are the things that matter to you, your values as a company or an organization, your values as a person as well, because the two things come together in your business. The way that you want your clients to feel, the way that you want to feel in your business, what your business is speaking about and what it stands for. So these are all those core elements of your business. If some of those are a little shaky, or you're not sure who you're talking to or what feeling you want to give them, then we want to address those questions first, because the colors and all of that can naturally come later. Oh, thank you for the heart. The colors and all of that will come later. So here's the 3 steps that I think are really going to help if you're in that space of feeling confused and intimidated by branding for obvious reasons, because it totally goes against human nature and the desire to be protected and comforted by your tribe. Here's the 3 steps. First, I think that the most important thing you can do is ground yourself in yourself. So I'm going to give some outrageous advice here, but I would spend 20 to 60 minutes a day for 30 days in silence and in silent meditation with yourself. And that's because it's really, really hard to even notice where we're being influenced by other people. because it's so subtle, right? It's like every TV commercial and anytime, like it's the way that my nieces talk or the way that people dress. Like it's all really subtle clues and cues about how I should conform and I should be in the world. And that 20 to 60 minutes where you spend in silence just with yourself is your opportunity to let some of that fall off of you and actually figure out what matters to you. And start to hear those much more subtle cues coming from inside of you about who you are and what really matters to you. So there's nothing that compares to that time. There just isn't. And you can read hundreds of books actually have been written on this. The top succeeders in the world, the top succeeders in every business across all of our countries, they meditate. They spend this time in some form of meditation in silence with themselves so that they can hear that inner drive, that inner voice and what it's saying over the external influences and external information coming in. So the first step is ground yourself in yourself by spending this time, 20 to 60 minutes a day for 30 days. Just give it a shot. You can commit to something for 30 days. It's okay. After 30 days, reassess, but give it that 30 days because if you're really confused and you really want the answer, then you're going to do what it takes, right? And this isn't an easy thing. You're transcending human inclinations over millennia. So this is not a small feat. You can give it 30 days. You really can. And then the second piece is to make sure that your personal life is sorted. So I'm a yoga teacher, so I'm going to look at this from the chakra perspective. But that root chakra is about stability, security, even Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that basic level of the pyramid, stability, security. It's very hard to ask yourself to go beyond the natural, instinctual, animalistic side of being a human, that I want to be protected, I want to be safe, if you aren't actually feeling protected and safe. It's just too much of an ask for yourself. So clean up your personal life. Make sure that you're financially supported. Make sure that your home is secure. Make sure that all of those pieces in your life, that you have the food that you need, that you're nourished on the level that you need. So we're checking off that basic need, the basic Maslow's hierarchy of needs, security and stability. I am safe. I am cared for. On a basic human body level, so that you can then move beyond that level and think about these much more refined concepts of who you are and how you want to be in the world. But we got to check that box, right? It's just too hard to ask yourself to be unstable and insecure on this really basic level and then try to stretch yourself to be insecure on a much more spiritual or emotional level as well. It's just too much. So the first thing is to get in tune with yourself, ground yourself in yourself for 30 days with meditation every day, 20 to 50 minutes or 60 minutes. Second step, make sure that you are completely protected and cared for and you've checked off that first box of needs for security and stability, the root chakra aspects of it. And then the third step is to play. Do less, play more. Do less, play more. Now that seems really hard for those of us in business because we want to do and do and do more and we have lots of ideas and there's not enough time and we just want to get it out. But when it comes to branding and when it comes to how you want to show up, the less that you do and the more that you play, the more you're going to get those signals and insights about what actually matters to you. So if you're not happy or if you're constantly pushing yourself to work, then you're going into a pattern of what matters to other people. What do you think that you have to do and check off the list in order to succeed at this thing that you think you want to be? But if it doesn't feel good, then you're not actually listening to your own desires. Something's off. And the only way to figure out what's off is to start to play more. It's to start to spend more time doing whatever it is that you want to do. And it sounds totally counterintuitive, especially if you're in business, but it works like a charm. So maybe you want to take the afternoon off to read a book. Maybe your afternoon is 5 minutes because you're really, really busy. I don't know. Maybe you need to go for a walk. Maybe you need to not launch that product and instead spend some time seeking out a teacher or taking a class on, dance routines for people over 40. I don't know, but find that thing that's fun for you and that really lights you up, because whatever sparks you to feel joyful, whatever sparks you to feel really open and expressive and helps you laugh is showing you the things in life that are bringing you alive, right? And people want to be around people who are alive. And you want to infuse your brand and your business with that energy of aliveness, not with that energy of striving and stress. So I'm just going to look down at my notes here to make sure I didn't miss anything. Oh, I love this. Okay. So one of the reasons, if you are stuck in your branding, that you can't figure out what you represent is because you're not doing those things that tell you who you are. And that's really the point of playing, is that we all say, oh, I want to be me. The best way to succeed in business is by being me. But if you don't know who you are because you're so out of touch, you've lost it so long ago from what makes you happy, then it's really, really hard to then say, well, how should I show up in the world? Oh, easy for so-and-so to do because look how confident they are. So if we need to get that confidence back, if we need to get back in touch with who I really am and what makes me really happy, then we play and then we know who we are. And when we know who we are, we know how to express it for other people. And actually, it'll come a lot easier. We won't have to think too much about it because it'll be joyful and it'll be something we want to express and people pick up on anyway. So I'm sure that there are people that you know, or you can think of brands. Let me try to think of one. Well, Kimra Luna is a great example in the online world because you look at her and you're like, of course, she's so confident and everybody knows who Kimra Luna is, but they didn't. And at some point she had to decide, am I going to go out there on the public stage and be the woman with blue hair and graffiti all over the walls behind me? And it's, you look at it and you're like, but of course she's just expressing who she is. But that's a challenging thing to do unless you feel supported in being who you are. So she spent enough time, I'm assuming, really enjoying that aspect of her life because she has different sides to her as well. She's a mom and she's a wife and all these other different sides to her. You choose the sides of you that you want to show up in a brand that you want to then have other people who are on that same level, who enjoy those same things, who find pleasure in being different or in showing up or however. I'll give you a great experience of this. One of the time in New Zealand, I was working at a coffee shop and a van of people pulled up and they got out of the car and they had long dreadlocks and long flowing clothes that looked homemade and these beautifully embroidered pants and great looking people. They pulled up out of this van and they started to come into the coffee shop, at which point the woman I was working with, who also had long flowing clothes that were homemade, beautiful long dreadlocks, gorgeous woman, walks out from behind the cafe bar and walks out and gives them a hug. And she came back in and I was like, oh, do you know those people? She goes, no, I've never met them before in my life. Now that's branding, right? She looked at them, she saw herself in them, and immediately went out there and gave them a hug. That is brilliant branding, and it's done through clothes, it's done through hair, it's done all the time. And so that's what we want to do in our business, right? We want to have like recognize like. But if you're having trouble deciding how you want to dress yourself in a business sense or how you want to do your business hair, and that's your colors and your branding and your images and your fonts and all of that, what you talk about, how you show up, the personality that you bring to it, blah, 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 like all of those things that go into branding, then we got to get back in touch with how you actually want to feel. And if that's so far removed from you, then you've got to spend some time exploring it. And we can explore it in the meditation. I think nothing compares to silence. For that, so 20 to 60 minutes a day in silence for 30 days. And like I said, you're trying to transcend human nature here. So you can give it 30 days. And then also have more fun. Forget business for a little bit. Like literally just forget it. Forget what you think you have to do and have more fun. The most I've sold in my programs were by making just ridiculous things. I wrote rhyming poems. I did a video where I talked to myself. I once did an improvised rap video. Like the more fun that I had, the more people wanted to know what I was doing because it was clear that I was just enjoying myself. And a business was sort of a side effect of how much fun I was having on this particular topic doing this thing. And I think it's probably people like talking to me, people like watching my videos because it's clear that I'm having a really nice time because I am. I love this. So spend some time figuring out what kind of things you actually like to do. This is not an easy process. This took me years and years and years. And I think it takes other people years and years. In fact, I quit my job, moved overseas, and lived on a mountain just to figure out what the heck I really like to do. And who am I? Who am I? Who am I if I'm not a daughter and a sister and a friend and an employee and all of that? I literally moved to a mountain to be like, who am I? Who am I? And that's a really big question. And branding is asking you that question. It's not a little question. It's not like, why can't you just choose your font colors? It's not that difficult, people. It's asking you a really big question. It's saying, break every tie that you've ever had to every community you've ever been part of. Stand on your own and scream from the mountains, this is who I am. And by the way, I'm never changing. which isn't how we naturally are. We naturally morph, we naturally meld, we naturally say, oh, you're from Omaha? I've been there twice. Don't you love those steaks? Because we want to create that bond, we want to create that connection. And when you've branded yourself as this is me and I'm never changing, it's great because it attracts people, but it naturally triggers that urge and desire to conform and to be protected and safe. So we have to compensate for that desire. We have to soothe that desire so that you can transcend that natural human instinct and actually move forward in your business. This is not little stuff. This is big stuff. So in order to transcend that natural instinct, we've got to pay attention to it. So the first thing is to spend that time alone in meditation. The second step is to make sure that you've actually checked the box on your root chakra issues. So the security, the stability. So is your house fine? Is your house situation stable? Are your finances stable and secure? Do you have the things you need to be able to eat so that you can set aside those basic human issues and move into these more esoteric concepts that are asking you to break those ties and stand out on your own and know that you're going to be safe and protected while you do. And then the third step is to figure out who you actually are and figure out what you want to say about yourself. And remember, your business isn't you, so you do get to pick and choose. You can show up in your business any way that you want to show up in your business, and it doesn't have to reflect all of you. You can hold some secret parts back, that's fine. But we want to make your business a playful, peaceful place to be, even if playing for you is giving PowerPoint presentations. We're not going to put any judgment about what play looks like. When I use the word play to say, do less and play more, I mean spend more time listening to that impulse within you that's giving you clues about what really matters to you and what you need in this moment to feel good. For some people, that's going to be a walk. For some people, that's going to be a bath. Some days it's going to be, wow, it would feel really great to do my taxes today because that's stressing me out. Hear the voice inside you that says, what do you need to feel good? And then start to listen to it more. And when you do that, you'll start to notice things about you. Like, oh, I'm really, really sarcastic. How would that show up in a business context? Or, oh, like for me, I do improv and a lot of improvised comedy. And I do that on Sunday mornings and I do it for shows and I love it. And the question is, and I've been asked this by my coach, well, where's improv showing up in your business? For me, it shows up sometimes in videos. I'll make funny videos or I'll do improvised poems or even this, we're improvising a little bit. But it's a good question, right? Where's that playful comedic side showing up in my business? And it's not, which means there's a part of me that either I'm going to say, nope, total divide, or I might go more into it. Maybe I want to add it even more to feel even better. But when you play, when you spend that time dedicated to just yourself, not stressing about your business, this is key. Do not stress about your business. You're looking just at you because we want to figure out how you want to be and how you want to bring yourself into your business. And you can't do that if you don't know who you are. You can't do that if you can't answer the basic questions about what do you care about, who do you want to serve, how do you want to help them, what do you like about yourself, what are the gifts that you're bringing to this. What kind of people do you want to be around? Because you can imagine your tribe like a group of people sitting in your living room. Are you going to let them in the front door? Do you actually like the people who are lining up on your email list or lining up in your company? Do you want them in your house? Those are the kinds of questions. So how would you decorate your house is the same question as how do you decorate your business with branding? And if decorating your house is hard, that's fine too, because these are all the same questions, right? What do we represent and what do we stand for? So I hope that was helpful. The 3 big steps. Well, first, acknowledging that this is a bigger issue. It's asking you to move beyond natural human instinct to be able to change your identity based on who you're with and so that you're safe, and fixing your identity as something of your own choosing beyond your community, which is adding an element of risk that you may be rejected or that you may be unprotected. So totally natural human response to have some trouble with branding, but we can address some of those scary steps by soothing our human nature. So making sure that you spend time alone so that you can hear your own instincts, first of all, so that you can hear what you really want and how you want to move forward. You know who's amazing at this is Marie Holden. Marie Holden in the UK, she's an energy healer. She does whatever she feels like is the right thing to do in her business based on time that she spends tuning into herself. So she'll be in the middle of like launching a program and then stop and change direction if she doesn't feel like it's in alignment with who she wants to be. Really, really phenomenal leader in the spiritual healing world. So look to her. She's amazing. Kim Luna is another great example if you want to look at somebody who's really standing out there for herself and her branding. And then the second step, so that's the first step, ground yourself in yourself, get to know you, create that space around you, that silent space every day to tune in so that you can hear your own guidance. The second step is just to make sure that you're stable and that you have the security that you need in your life. We've got to adjust that root chakra, that basic human level chakra, in order to be able to move to the higher levels and the more transcendent conversations like, is it okay for me to break off from my tribe and stand out by myself? That's a big, big ask of yourself on all these different levels. So we got to make sure that we've got the right foods, we've got our houses safe, we've got financial security, and that our personal lives are pretty stable in order to support us so that we're not really risking all that, everything all at once. And then the third step is to do less and play more. So put your business aside for a little bit and dig into who you really are and how you want to play. I'm just looking at my notes again. Yes, and because one of the reasons that in branding we can't figure out who we are is that we're not spending enough time with what we desire. And our desires, Danielle Laporte talks about this all the time, our desires are what we want in life. Our feelings are what we move towards. We want to move towards things that feel good versus things that feel bad. It's like hot potato, right? Like move towards the hot potato. What feels good? So we really want to spend time playing so that you know what feels good for you and you know who you are and how you want to show up and not feel pressured or inundated by all of that information around you of other people. So hopefully that's helpful. Tomorrow we're going to talk about 6 mindset confidence things. So showing up in business, again, a lot of beliefs there, right? A lot of beliefs around money, a lot of beliefs about being responsible for other people's results, lots of beliefs about you being judged, which gets into today's thing about branding. Am I going to be judged? Am I going to be rejected? What happens? So there's all sorts of beliefs that can come up for us when we're in business. So tomorrow we're going to talk about some of the six top ones that I've experienced and the shifts that we can make in the mindset to add these more empowering beliefs that help us actually feel good and succeed in our businesses instead of holding us back. And if you missed Monday through Wednesday, which were awesome, we talked about your business message and who you actually serve. Then we talked about showing up in social media and the 3 questions you need to ask yourself and the 3 questions you ask of your audience to figure out where you're going to be playing on social media and how you want to show up. Yesterday, we talked about 6 steps to focusing and finishing things, and we had one really key question and one step that most people miss in that to help you actually finish things. And then today we talked about branding and the real truth behind branding and why it's so hard on a human level. And we got 3 steps coming out of that to help ourselves. So sit in silence, tune into that inner guidance, make sure that everything's stable in your life so that you can move into this higher realm and ask yourself to do this bigger transcendent decision of branding and that you play a little bit more to figure out who you are. And then tomorrow we're doing confidence and mindset. And I have a webinar next week. Actually, if you missed Monday and you want to go even deeper on it, a webinar on Tuesday, February 16th, we're going to be talking about, it's a free webinar. You can sign right up for it on my website in the top left corner. We're going to be talking about, again, your life purpose, your business message, who you serve, and how to get clear on what you actually do in your business. Because a lot of us don't have that coherent message, which really affects our branding as well. So we're going to get clear on that. All right, I hope to see you there. Thanks for being here.